Welcome back, everybody, to the next episode of the First and 10 show. You've got Justin and Caleb. How's it going, Caleb?
Good, Justin. It's great to see you, man. It's been a
Yeah,
long time. You
yeah, it
doing all
has.
right, man?
Yep, we haven't done one in a while, so I'm excited
Haven't
to
done one.
run it up. But tough loss. Uh,
Tough loss.
took it on the chin.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on it? Just right after.
Man, I'm gonna be honest with you. That loss just I'm be honest with you. I had a feeling going to the season it was gonna be tough, it was gonna be difficult. I mean, there were dominoes and a lot of different things that showed me kind of throughout the process, okay, this can be difficult.
Mhm.
But the first thing that really irritated me, and this is just my opinion, people who I talked to, they didn't agree with me, is why is Chris Jones at the game in the suite? Like, I feel like that added more to the whole narrative. I'm be honest with you, the defensive line played very well without him
Mhm.
tonight.
Yep.
So he's only hurting his value. And if I'm Veach, with all this drama we're dealing with, I would have traded him because a couple different issues. If Chris Jones would have restructured, the Chiefs would have had money to get like a DeAndre Hopkins. They would have been have money to maybe get a Jarvis Landry or also get money to help improve the defense as a whole or get more weapons. I know he is trying to get more money, but if you're going to be part of the team, specifically the Chiefs, a model organization that has been to 5 AC championships, 3 Super Bowls, have won 2 Super Bowls, all in the span of 5 years, now pushing 6 years. It has showed us that is it about you or is it about the team? Because if Mahomes and Kelsey can take pay cuts, why can't Chris Jones? And
Yep.
I love Chris Jones, I really do. But this whole monster, this whole thing is showing me, I don't know. Do they need to move on from him? Because I feel like Brett Veach is pretty pissed right now. Not the loss is probably making him mad because guys are dropping the balls and we're executing. Bad play calls are happening like QB sneak with Blake Bell, Quentin. Shout out to you. I know you're probably asleep right now, but you talked about that relentlessly this summer. So those are just my thoughts. What do you got, man?
Yeah, well, initially I knew shutting down the run game was going to be big. Not only just part of the game plan in general, but also just towards the Chris Jones situation. It was going to be big to. I mean, obviously losing him is big, but we got to kind of make his presence unfelt almost. Normally
Yep.
it's the other way around. And I thought they did a good job by that by sending Nick Bolton up the middle, a lot of disguised blitzes, and he kind of filled that role. But unfortunately, it also kind of took away from other aspects that we usually have Nick Bolton, whereas kind of filling in on the outside or like on the short passes and the screens, we didn't have that presence. And so that also led to a lot of downfield coverage by our linemen. And I wasn't a fan of that. In the flat, I like it when we have athletic enough guys to do that with. But just for this game scheme, I wasn't a fan of it.
Well,
I mean,
and
go
I don't
ahead.
interrupt you, but you bring up a great point. Why is Derek Nottie dropping the press conference? Are we seeing the reincarnation of Bob Sutton out there? I'm being honest with you.
Exactly.
I saw like Nottie out there. I'm like, hold on, what's he doing? And then I think I saw Corbin. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are they dropping us pass coverage? We don't have our best defensive player out there. Everyone needs to be going after the quarterback. So I don't know what Spags was thinking there.
No,
I don't know.
And at one point, I mean, I know Felix Anudike-Uzomah is a lot more athletic than a couple of those other guys, but at one point he was like 20 yards down coverage and we were blitzing Snead. And I like the corner blitz, but not if it means we have like a D end in coverage instead of him. So we got to find a happy middle if we're going to lose Chris Jones. And I think the answer to that, if Chris Jones doesn't return, might be maybe a Danny Shelton return. Throw him at defensive tackle, somebody big like that we can throw in there and get Nick Bolton back out in coverage.
And Danny Shelton did a great job in preseason. He showed he can move from a big man. He can block the holes. And he's also on our practice squad. The Chiefs can elevate him. But I have to say this. I think the defensive line did a very good job. The defense as a whole did good. Did they have some bad moments? Yes. But to only give up 21 points, 3 touchdowns, that's pretty good. Where it could have got ugly. Yeah, there's some things, but hats off to the Lions. I knew this game was going to be tough. I knew the Chiefs were going to have to battle. And when Kelsey was injured and they found out he wasn't going to play, I'm kind of like, well, I mean, that makes sense. It doesn't surprise me because of all these different things. I mean, again, I've been saying it for the last 3-4 years. The Chiefs need to find a replacement. They got to go after guys, someone like Brock Bowers or someone. Yeah. Because you're running into a situation where the Chiefs go into a playoff game and let's say this issue lingers. Do the Chiefs think about possibly not, I want to say tanking, but when it comes to draft position, what are they going to try to figure out to do? Because I still think this team can turn around. It's game 1. I'm going to be honest with you. Several years ago when the Chiefs played against the Patriots on opening night, they end up smacking the crap out of that team. And the Chiefs didn't have the best season. They went to the playoffs, but the Patriots still won the Super Bowl. the Chiefs can still come back from this.
Yeah.
There's just issues in play that need to be figured out. But this whole Chris Jones saga, I'm pretty sure if this happened to Belichick, he would have traded him. And I think Veach is realizing now, and maybe this is just me, when you're having a player do that in your first contract, they're probably going to do it for your second contract, it's probably best to trade and get some value because this drama is unnecessary. And I wouldn't be surprised if some emotions start flaring where players are saying stuff because why are you there at the game, but you're not there to help your team? Like, I understand you want to do publicity and all those different things, but I don't see the benefit. Yeah. I just don't.
Yep. Something else that kind of didn't bother me, but just take away from the game. And the past couple of years, we've had trouble with our secondary getting burnt over the top. And I feel like they were almost doing too good of a job of making sure that didn't happen this year. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of cushion, a lot of zone coverage where they were farther back than they should have been. I mean, we were getting guys. Yeah. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown was catching passes 20 yards down the field, and there were guys 5-10 yards behind him. So we got to limit down that cushion, play a little bit more aggressive. I mean, I appreciate the conservatism, but we can't be that conservative where we're playing scared like that. We got to crack it down.
And that's why when I was looking at that, I was wondering, hold on, is this Sutton out there? Because we were doing the same thing 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
You can't do that because you're just going to throw. If you're going to be 10 yards off the ball, they're just going to run slants all day, and eventually when they try to bite, boom, over the top, touchdown.
Yep. So got to find a happy middle for sure.
Exactly.
Something I did like though, kind of dogging on the defense a little bit, but now turning the DNs, dude, they did a really good job of getting in the backfield. George Karlaftis really showed out. I think some of that training he was doing with Tom Bahali really paid off. You could tell that he's been working on that craft, kind of getting off there. Trent McDuffie, he played super well tonight. He super aggressive off the line, making some hits. I like seeing that out of a kind of a smaller corner. And then again, Nick Bolton, we kind of talked about wanting to free him up, but he did a really good job of making the best of like the position that they put him in. He was blowing up that gap. He put Montgomery on his butt a couple of times, but especially that one play, man, got me out of my seat a little bit. So just those guys are really shining, even in a less than ideal situation, I guess I should say.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I didn't tweet this out. I should have and probably would call the store, but pay Nick Bolton. He's your next Derek Johnson. Has a potential to be greater. I like Willie Gay, but I think Leo Chanel is there to replace him. We've seen the last year or two he's been getting a lot of snaps. I like Snead, but I think Shamari Connor is there to replace him as well. So, I mean, the Chiefs have a lot of decisions to make. I'm kind of looking at Ted's comment. I'll just read it out. After tonight, he says, after tonight, I think a decision needs to be made to never allow Jones to wear a Chiefs uniform again. He obviously doesn't understand how the culture works in the Chiefs organization. Well, I mean, I would say Ted is half right and probably maybe half wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, Quentin, JP, and I relentlessly this summer talked about how there is different things the Chiefs could do to fix. And I know JP was very optimistic, and Quentin was the one that got a lot of flack. I'm going to say, and Quentin, if you're listening to this while you're trying to fall asleep, you are correct, man. You are correct because of all these different things you talked about. Tony, knee surgery. He really tonight did not show up. I mean, the Chiefs, I think they could have won that game if he would have caught that pass. He had a terrible game. Guys like Sky Moore were dropping the ball. Rashee Rice, first catch was a touchdown pass. So that was positive. We saw Justin Ross do his thing. It just seemed it seemed the receivers were not able to get separation. And I felt there was an issue, and I'm not trying to dog on the guy, but the Clyde experiment has to be done. You got to let Pacheco just pound that rock. I know we want to keep Clyde because he's making a little bit of money, but Deneric Prince shown he could play.
And Phillip, he's watching. Phillip, that's his guy.
So I don't know, Phillip, if you agree with me on that point, but dang, man, I mean, I'm not mad because, again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So all those overreaction Fridays we're going to have, there's going to be some concern, but I also think the Chiefs could change some stuff. But I also know this. That Chris Jones situation, if they don't get it figured out, whether they pay him or trade him, it's going to be an issue. And I feel like even if he comes back to the team, there's going to be some bad blood. So I'm starting to wonder if do they just trade him off? What should they do? So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's kind of tough. With a player of that caliber, you really don't want to let him go. You kind of want to try to work it out. It's kind of, you give him a little more leadway. But at the same time, it's at what cost? And it's even harder because when he's there, he is a good culture guy. More likely than not, he's for the team, man. Even now, every now and then, he'll get a presser or something, and he'll kind of boost up the team morale. But I think I can't help but think, man, it's those agents. I think they're kind of he's with the wrong team around him.
Did you see all the memes that were made about his agents? All the pictures.
Yes, man.
There were some funny ones. I'm be honest with you. I'm not gonna repeat some of them, but they were pretty funny.
Yeah, so it was kind of tough, just trying to find a balance between, especially because I mean, you let him go, that's another team, that's a different team. So it just you got to figure out what value, and you just got to figure out the scheming of things. I think if he's not ready by week 2, you really do got to bump up someone like Danny Shelton just to give the opportunity to see what it would look like with him in there, kind of test run.
Experiment. And the defensive line wasn't that bad.
They played
very well. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you had some issues, but you as a defense, you're going in this NFL in the day and age, you're just gonna get up some stuff. Yep. And 21 points isn't nothing to cry at. No. That's pretty good at the defensive rate we've seen,
especially for an offense like that. Yeah.
What were your thoughts on those offensive play calls by Andy? I know people did not like that. I don't know, sneak reverse to Rice. I mean, should we just give up on that and just run the ball? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
So we broke this down a little bit on the stream. We had some trouble with the Chiefs stream, so we ended up joining up with the Lions guys. So that was kind of an interesting change. Not the outcome we wanted for that, but we'll leave that there. We were kind of talking. Teams kind of have a tendencies to, when they play the Chiefs, they try to get too fancy. They kind of leave what they know to try to kind of match what the Chiefs do. But at that same time, the Chiefs kind of feel like there's this like unspoken urge to outdo them. Like this is our stuff. We're going to do it how we do it. And so at some point you got to find a balance of just not getting too fancy. I think this was Matt Nagy's first game as the offensive coordinator. So he was kind of trying to test out the new toys and have some fun with it. And we got a feel for that. I feel like we treat this as an extra preseason game and we move on from here. I feel like those special plays, they got to become our identity to an extent where when you least expect them.
It's a time and a place. And they know 3rd and 1, okay, we're going to do the sneak. But Pacheco, our offense line is good. Why don't we just run the ball? There's a better I mean, I saw a tweet, and you may or may not agree with this, but I thought it was a great point. I'd rather have a 3rd and 17 with Mahomes throwing the ball than a 3rd and 1 trying to do a QB sneak.
Right. And
at that point, they got a point.
Yes, they do. And at that point, when we do decide to get ballsy with it, we have to have guys that execute. And that was something you kind of talked about with the drops with Tony and Sky Moore. That 4th and long and that 4th and forever. I was kind of questioning the play call. But I mean, it hit Sky Moore in the hands. And I'm not going to hate on them. They're both excellent players. But the disappointing part about that is that Sky Moore, I mean, especially Moore, but also somewhat of Tony, we didn't know what his status was going to be throughout this game. But those were the two guys we expected to kind of step up in Kelsey's absence and have a big game. And they kind of, I mean, when the lights got on, they kind of had a couple of errors. Now, don't get me wrong, they also had good plays, but we just can't afford to, when we're trusting them like that, we can't afford to just let loose like that and have that many drops. I think I counted 5 or 6 drops just in the second half between those two guys.
And no separation.
Yeah. So we kind of got to lock in, just stick to the game. And with this offense, we always talk about how there's no true number one, so it's hard to predict who's going to be the guy that game. But when that's the case, we can't try to be the number one when we're not. We can't be trying to do too much. Just take it one play at a time, make it happen, and move on.
Do you think the Chiefs are going to try to sign a receiver like Jarvis Landry because they obviously need some extra help? You think so?
I think they're going to give it a couple games. Get Kelsey. I don't think they want to overreact right away. Especially get Kelsey back in there, kind of figure out the scheming a little bit more. I'm hoping we see a little bit more Richie James. We haven't done a podcast yet, but Richie James, kind of my guy. Like I'm kind of high up on him. I think he's got some potential if we use him right. So I mean, kind of get some more guys incorporated. We didn't see the depth that I thought we were going to. I thought we were going to flex the depth a little bit more. We didn't see that as much. I say we wait, get Kelsey going a little bit, see how these guys do, and then reevaluate in a couple weeks. What do you think?
I agree with you. I do believe you should start trying maybe bring some guys in. But here's a hypothetical filler. I'm just wondering your thoughts. Trade Chris Jones to the Bucks for Mike Evans. What are your thoughts? I mean, I know I'm thinking a little early, but you need some receiver help. You can get the money worked out. Two different ways. He's going to get paid. The Chiefs get a number one receiver. I mean, Mike Evans is nothing to sniff at. Have him and Kelsey. I've been saying this for years. Every time a top receiver has been on the market, I'm just saying it's only going to help your team if you add him. I'm talking about OBJ. Who was the other one? DeAndre Hopkins. If you add him to this offense, it's only going to help. It's going to make it to where. So I'm in the camp, and I believe you're right. We got to give them time, but I also think the Chiefs, if they want to save the season,
Mm-hmm.
they got to do something that's unquestioned, like making that trade. Because if and I know I said this before, but I just feel like Veach is very fed up with Chris Jones and this whole debacle that has gone on.
Yeah.
One moment you're saying, I want to be a part of the Chiefs organization. You think you can have money freed up. You can bring all these players in. No, you can't do that. So you're having to rely on the rookies, and that's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
And even Tom Brady had to do that, and they didn't win.
Yeah.
But I think we're also seeing too is like, look, you're gonna have to make a move.
Yeah.
Something's got to be figured out at this point. I mean, I know it's a first game, but this could be a precursor because this knee bruise or this bone bruise could linger.
Yeah.
We really want to round these same guys again. I mean, I like Tony, but I honestly never thought he was a wide receiver one. I thought he was good, but as a wide receiver one, I wasn't seeing it because of the injury. Now the drops are showing me, no.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Which some of that neither of them played very much preseason. So I'm kind of hoping it's a little bit of first game jitters, but at the same time, I mean, you're getting paid millions of dollars to catch the ball. You got to catch the ball.
Yep. It touches your hands, you got to catch it.
Yeah. Regarding the Mike Evans trade, really, I mean, I guess it would just depend on kind of just little touch runs like we were talking about. I mean, kind of try to get Nick Bolton back into more play instead of rushing the A-gap every time. Kind of see if we can free him up and see what that does to the defensive line, see if they still hold up like they did tonight. And then also kind of see what they do, the offense does with Travis Kelce, maybe get McKinnon a little bit more involved in the pass game again. They did a pretty good job of stopping that, but against different teams, I'm interested to see how that goes. So I guess really the answer would be it depends on a couple weeks from now. We kind of try new things. You know, I don't care if it means our defense gets torched. If we put Nick Bolton out, let him do what he was doing last year and see how bad it hurts the defensive line, I'm okay to make that a test experiment run. So then if we see that that's hurting, or say that does fine, and then the offense continues to hurt even with Kelce, that's when I think we consider the trade like that.
And the weird thing is, too, we had pretty much these same players last year, and you would think they were to step up, and they didn't. So I'm wondering if Kelce can help, or is it going to be, Kelce's going to get his, but next week you're playing against the Jaguars. So you got 10 days to figure out, and they're a better team than the Lions. I mean, I knew the Lions were going to be tough this year. They may make a playoff run. It might surprise some people. But what I also know, too, is the Jaguars is a extra echelon higher. Yeah. So
especially offensively. Yeah. The Jaguars are a good offensive team, especially. So I'm curious to see how the secondary bounces back from this game to next game. Kind of see if they play a little bit more aggressive, even if it means getting burnt over the top for a touchdown. I would take that a couple of times compared to playing 25 yards off. They throw underneath in the zone, just set up and can consistently get 15, 20 yards. I mean, we just got to find a happy middle, make some plays. We kind of saw them adjust later on, where they kind of finally shut down Amon-Ra. But early on, it was too soft for me. So we got to kind of tighten down on that.
And I like Spags, but I just feel like his – how do I say this? I feel like his not rotation, what's the term? Adjustments are just way too late. And that happens with a lot of the coordinators in sports. And I don't know if it's because me, the fan, I'm seeing it from a field point of view, and they're trying to do stuff they think is right. But I know it's like if it's not working after half a quarter, I'm changing it. So I don't know what takes coaches so long. I mean, I know there's a philosophy thing, but I'm the kind of person, I see a problem, I'm going to go fix it. I'm not going to wait and do things like that. So, that is a little concerning, though, like when they let that continue to happen. But again, the defense did pretty well tonight. So,
I think also part of it is kind of just gelling with Mahomes and how he plays the ball, especially from the offensive side of things. We got both the new tackles. Donovan Smith, especially, I thought played really well. But just kind of the way that Mahomes moves in the pocket is unlike any other quarterback. So kind of getting used to that movement and matching that, I think will be difficult. But once they figure it out, it'll go well. We saw Juwan Taylor get a little trigger happy.
Yeah, that whole situation. Go ahead, start off with it, man.
No, I was just gonna say, man, there were a couple of plays. There was a lot of Twitter hate, and there were a couple missed ones. Later on, they finally got it. It was just kind of a tough break, man. When the announcers or the broadcasters are talking about it, it's getting kind of bad. Well, we gotta. I think it's just trying to prep for what Mahomes was gonna do. You got to be fast, and he's not used to that yet, so he was just trying to kind of mix with that.
Well, the one thing I would say is this. I forgot the offensive tackle Eagles, but they're all Super Bowl, and no one said nothing. And then the Chiefs do it, and like, oh, the world's ending. I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys can't have a double standard here.
Yeah.
And that's what my tweet I put out was trying to convey. We have Jawan Taylor does it, is basically getting yelled and fussed at. But I think it was Lane Green, I think. He wanted to put out a tweet saying, oh, he's just on time. Bro, you were false starting every single point of the Super Bowl and getting basically stance. So I don't know what the NFL is going to do, but I think this is something to watch forward. And I do find it interesting they called that penalty at that point in the game when they could have called it any other place.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs only had 2 or 3 penalties on the night for, I think, 30 yards, if that. So that's not bad as well. So I saw one tweet saying that the Chiefs lost by 1 point with their C performance. That's encouraging because it shows that they can beat. And the Lions gave them their all. I mean, they laid it all out. Fake punt inside their own 20-yard line, all these gutsy plays. I mean, sometimes a team like that who has been talked about, has been just dogged on, they're just going to rise up and push through, and that's just what they did.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So what kind of adjustments would you have liked to see tonight to adjust kind of like, especially on offense, kind of the troubles? Obviously, you can't help drops. So, I mean, those were a big thing. That would have been a different ballgame besides a couple of drops. But just kind of scheme-wise, do you think anything changes?
Well, I would have always had to where you're having a running back always out in the flat. That is something Andy has always done. Having to where you have a running back out in the flat, so Mahomes either dumps it off, he can. We didn't see that this time around. And I don't know if that was a Reed decision or was that a Nagy decision, but that was very helpful. Many times last year when Mahomes needed to find someone, he just throw it on the flat and they would go take it. Now, also, I think Kelsey took a couple linebackers with him, so that could be another thing as well. That's one thing. Another thing, a decision when it comes to this formations, I think you just got to have more put the playmakers in and give them the ability to play. The game plan at times seemed too basic. And when you get stuff too basic and then you try to get all cutesy with it, it doesn't work. So I think that's another thing as well is, again, it comes to old Verbis is we were trying to figure out who's calling the plays. Last year, is it Bieniemy or is it Andy? Now is it Nagy or is it Andy? So I don't know. I really don't know, to be honest with you. Those are kind of my 2 things because when you look at all these issues in the day, the Chiefs lost by 1 point. I believe if Tony would have caught that ball, the Chiefs would have won the game. But I also know this. If they would have won, it would have felt like a loss, though, too. Because there are so many different issues. And I'd rather have a loss now, September 7th, than in January 17th. I'm just telling you, let's have these issues now. Let's get them out of the way, and then let's go on our run.
And I think another big thing, too, is that, I mean, there's not a lot of chemistry yet with these receivers, really any of them. I mean, I think MVS and Justin Watson maybe have the most, but there's still not a lot of chemistry there. And I think that's what's different. I mean, we saw it with McKinnon last year even, and then we also saw it obviously with Kelsey, where when Mahomes is kind of scrambling and moving around, it's like a second instinct. They just know it's going to be here or here. They're able to move around, kind of help Mahomes improvise, and that wasn't talked about enough last season. It was always, oh, look at this pass Mahomes made. Mahomes is spectacular, yes, but it wouldn't have been possible without these guys that are able to just move on the fly, make that adjustment, and help him improvise. And also kind of reading off the defense and improvising your route as well, kind of breaking. Kelsey does that a lot. I mean, he'll see something, so he'll do something else. And I think these guys, I mean, kind of playing scared because they're so young, like so new to the team, but then also there just wasn't that chemistry. So then they weren't, like Mahomes was moving around, they weren't ready for it off the hands. And then, or they wouldn't break on a route because they didn't know where this defender was at. So they were kind of scared to improvise. And I think as the season goes along, we'll see that more from these other guys.
No, I agree with you. I that's an important factor right there. Yeah. I mean, when I look at all these different things, again, it's a 1 point loss, but there are issues that need to be figured out. And last year, the year after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, they kind of had that little issue with that whole Juan Thornhill defensive issues that were going on. You've seen pretty quickly how much turmoil it caused in the team. So when it comes to Chris Jones, what are they going to do? And I also think, too, Veach should take the approach that if you're going to be trying to sell for your first contract, there's a good chance you're going to do it for your second contract. And I know Belichick was kind of furious, but he was like, I'm trading you. Jamie Collins like, I want Von Miller money. Well, you're going to the Browns, who are 2-10 right now. So, I mean, sometimes you have to take that approach. But again, if Mahomes and Kelsey can end up sacrifice some money, why can't Chris Jones? Just saying. Just put that out there.
So now I got to ask you, I don't know. I personally don't know yet. So I want to ask you first. had Amir Smith-Marset been in this game, what kind of impact do you think he would have had, if any? I mean, you maybe don't even think he would have had one, but do you think just having a guy like that instead of somebody would have made a bigger difference?
I think if you had a Smith-Marset, it adds another weapon to the field, another dynamic player, someone you could rely on in certain situations. I'm not for sure he would have been able to like help, but I think he would have been able. The way he was playing in preseason, I think he would have caught a couple of those balls that were dropped.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
I honestly believe they should have tried to keep him on the practice squad or try to do something.
Yeah.
I feel like this could be whatever he goes around, comes around, because the Panthers aren't going to be good this season. So we can see what happens with that there. But I think that Smith-Marset could have been valuable for this team tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think he's kind of one of those players that, I mean, it could be middle of the third quarter. He hasn't had a pass thrown his way all game. And then all of a sudden here he is with a 60-yard touchdown catch. Like, that's just kind of the impact he has where I mean, he's confidence and a little bit of swagger about him to where I think it would have kind of added a little bit of more just kind of flame to the offense today. They're kind of all getting drowsy and they're kind of all wearing out and they're kind of running basic routes. And here is Smith-Marset over the top running a 50-yard go route and just right over everybody and for the touchdown.
Yeah, so, and that's where the creativity when it came to play design just wasn't there. And I don't and I even told my dad, I was watching the game with him, like, first quarter, this is gonna happen. And that's the second quarter. The Chiefs are going to go be able to score, and they're going to basically tie the game up, and they're going to get a stop. Same thing. Because I've watched these Chiefs games before. The first quarter is always slow. It's always going to slow. The other team always jumps out to hugely. Then what the Chiefs do is they come down, they end up scoring, they get a stop, they score again. And sometimes they score another time to make it 3 scores. So at that point, you're looking at 21-7, and then different things happening when you're at your best. But when you don't have Kelsey there and you have issues with Chris Jones and other individuals like that, Charles Omenihu, when he gets here, he's going to do a lot of stuff. It just shows that there's cracks in the foundation and you have to get more backups that are going to be available to play. So,
Yeah, Charles isn't talked about enough. And then Neil Farrell, he was inactive for this game. So he'll be back. I mean, depending on the Chris Jones stuff, and we talked about Danny Shelton maybe. So there's a couple of different, ways to move forward with the defensive line, especially. I think that would kind of give the opportunity to maybe add an extra defensive back in times. I mean, we kind of saw a lot of cushion, a lot of big zones. And I'll give props to Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah. They did a great job of finding the gap in the zone and just setting in it. And I think that was improv too. I mean, like, he was able just to kind of move around. And that's something we should have capitalized on more. But we didn't. So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah. And again, capitalization would have worked. It was crazy, though. As bad as again the Chiefs played, they still had a chance. They got a huge stop on 4th down. I mean, McDuffie. We haven't even talked about McDuffie, man. That fumble, head on the ball.
Yeah.
He's going to be a great corner. The quarterback room looked pretty good when they played with a good scheme. When they did that 10 yards off the ball stuff, that didn't work. Yeah, that always reminds me of the Marcus Peters days. I mean, there were great times, but also like, no, we don't want any of that. So, but McDuffie did really, really well.
Yeah, I was really pleased with how he played. Played really physical, and I love seeing that in the corner because he also showed that he had coverage skills downfield. So he kind of proved to be quite the Swiss Army knife as far as just versatility goes for just play style, and he's able to make the plays. I'd like to see a few more turnover opportunities. Obviously, there was that super nice forced fumble, but not even necessarily turnovers. I mean, those will come, but we got to set our guys up more to make those happen, I think. And that didn't happen very often. So, I mean, that's just one of those things that kind of moving forward we'll see. But also, I mean, we talked about this a lot last season. Andy Reid sees the game differently. I mean, like, he plans for the future. He has all these things mapped out, and he purposely does things that seem stupid in the moment, but then 10 weeks later, they plan out. And honestly, last season, there was a couple of things where instantly I was like, okay, that's just Andy Reid being Andy Reid. Tonight, I didn't see much of that. I feel like it's going to be stuff that'll turn into that. But off the top of my head, I don't know. I'm kind of clueless right now.
What was an example last year that comes to mind?
I mean, kind of last season, like, there were certain, like, play schemes that he would run. And then a few weeks later, I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. But, like, I remember he'd run a scheme or a formation, and then he'd come out a few weeks later in a big game when it mattered and run something else but the opposite way or something, like kind of just mixing up plays and like formations and packages, like the different reverses we saw tonight. I feel like that might be something that he kind of
brings back later.
Yeah. So I'm kind of just hoping, I'm optimistic that he has a intention for going for it on 4th and forever and throwing it up deep and I mean, I'd say kind of ridiculous trick plays and stuff. Like just kind of the reaching stuff like that. Week 1, I kind of am curious to see how that plays into later and if he capitalizes on that at all.
Yeah, I want that's kind of the pizzazz that happened. I mean, yeah, I do agree with you. And I know one thing, and this is something JP and I have talked about in the past, the Chiefs don't want to show everything.
Yeah.
But I also believe, too, is that in grand scheme of games, this is an NFC team, so this really is not going to hurt us whatsoever.
Yeah.
So really, you're kind of 0-0, to be honest with you. But when you don't show everything, it helps you. But if you just do straight vanilla offense, teams can figure out. But that worked with Tyreek Hill. That worked with Travis Kelce because they were just better than everyone else.
Yeah.
But now you're going to have to update that regular vanilla Bluebell ice cream. You got to throw some chocolate sauce on. You got to throw some sprinkles. Just make it a little bit better. And then we get the playoffs. You can do some more chocolate fudge and throw a banana and then throw some, I don't know, some cherries. But you know what I'm saying, man? You got to build it up over time.
Yeah.
And I think at the point, you want to do base vanilla, but you got to make it vanilla with a little bit of chocolate or some sprinkles. Just some pizzazz. Because you got to. I think these wide receivers can play. I believe that. But they need time and experience. Unfortunately, in this game, it did not show due to the lack of experience. I like Mecole Hardman, but I believe his time here was gone. I like guys like Richie James. He's going to have to learn the offense more. I believe KT can figure it out, but I knew when I saw the wide receiver one, I did not agree with that whole theory. When he got hurt, that showed a lot. Kelce, I think, is going to do Kelce, but again, who is going to be the tight end that takes over for Kelce? Because we just got a preview the world without Kelce. So that's why I'm hoping they try to go for guys like Brock Bowers in the future.
Yeah, because I mean, something that I don't want to talk about, mostly because I don't want to face the reality side of it. Kelce's still got plenty of years left.
Exactly.
But we're kind of nearing the top where we have to find somebody for him to mentor. And so I agree. I mean, I don't think drafting a tight end would be bad because we kind of saw it. Like you were saying, we saw the world without Kelce, and I don't think we want to – right now, we're not ready for that. So
we don't want that.
Yeah. So, I mean, keeping the offense vanilla is fine and dandy until it's not. And I think we got to find an identity, and I don't want to overreact off of one game, especially week 1, NFC, missing a lot of guys. But we got to find an identity of – I mean, we can give it to Pacheco, smash mouth, but then we can also do this fancy stuff. But I think we got to find a happy middle, kind of balance out the offense a little bit more instead of just desperation heaves and nothingness. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. I'm sure they'll do it, but I don't know, man. It's just the scheming side of things is going to be interesting to see how they move forward.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, a move has to be made, and when a move is made, we'll find out. I mean, the Chiefs kind of were desperate, and they ended up signing. It wasn't who they ended up signing. It wasn't LaShawn McCoy a couple years ago. Well, no, Josh Gordon ended up making that move to help the receivers. I feel like this season you're going to have to make some sort of move, do something. I mean, the defense I think is going to be fine. Normally the defense for the first few weeks in the season are terrible. They played pretty good, and I think it'll be fine this season. That offense is when can we start clicking? When can we start figuring things out? So
See, I also would not be against almost not. I don't want to say sacrificing, but almost sacrificing the next week's game to just build an identity, to kind of get momentum going. Whether that's just kind of committing to one bit, whether that's smash mouth football the entire game or throwing it 90 yards downfield every play. Like, I mean, obviously that's a bit of an over exaggeration, but kind of just committing to one bit, seeing how it does, really going after it, and then either it works and we find our identity and it kind of builds momentum with the team and gets the guys all hyped up and sparks some fire, or it doesn't and we move on to something new. I think it's pretty plain and simple like that. So
do you think Kelce plays next week?
I think so. Strictly off of JP and a couple other people I've talked to, he had a really negative reaction towards not being able to play, which I think day by day is almost worse than being ruled out, because you wake up that morning of the game, you're ready to go, locked in for the game, and then it's just a no all of a sudden. And so I don't know. I talked to Ari Mayrov, the 33rd team guy, and he kind of said that if Kelce's not 100%, they're going to be hesitant to play him next week too. And I do think there's some truth to that. But after this week, I think they're going to try to get him back in there a little bit, see what he can do. We obviously missed him in this game. So even if it's a limited snap count, but I'm sure he'll be good to go. I feel like he could have played tonight if they wanted him to. But they don't. I mean, they didn't need him. Yeah.
And that's another thing I was thinking, too, against the NFC team. It's one game. You're thinking about the more longevity of health. Now he has 10 days to rest that knee to see the swelling, things like that. And it's a bone bruise. So there's a good chance it could be a lot better in a week from now. And we're in a whole different situation, but give it time to rest. I did think it was interesting on the broadcast. They did say that he did workouts in the pool and was able to get really not a lot of motion off of it. So that was kind of interesting. It makes sense why they did that. So, but again, this is a learning experience. So for those who are going to be mad tomorrow about the game, this is one out of 17 at 18. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So
that's right. So yeah, I do feel like though that if they needed him to pull Mahomes from last playoffs and it was an important game, I believe Kelce could have played and probably would have had it been more of a game of value. But like you were saying, 10 days of rest after this, sit him, kind of I was hoping they'd let some of these other guys, like I was talking about earlier, flex the roster depth a little bit, kind of give everyone a little opportunity to just kind of showcase their talents. I don't know, just kind of in the absence of them, take advantage of it. And we didn't see it as much, but I'm no complaints.
Philip brings up an interesting point. He says, I trade for Tyler Higbee. I believe Higbee's on the Rams. He said Higbee hasn't been a consistent weapon with the Rams last year when he had 72 catches for 620 yards and 3 scores with 4 different quarterbacks.
Philip, let me know. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
I was going to say, Philip, let me know how many years are left on his contract, because that's something I'd like to see, if you wouldn't mind.
And that's another thing, too, when we look at that. I like guys like Noah Gray, but they're not Kelce. And Higbee is kind of a closer guy to Kelce a little bit. Not on that same level, but a little bit underneath. But no one so you can know that can jump in and assume that role. Yeah. But 4 quarterbacks, 72 catches, 620 yards, has 1 year left. Maybe they could figure something out. 1 year rental, maybe.
I was going to say that's almost what I was hoping. I was hoping you're going to say 1 or 2 years. Because we talked about going and get like a Brock Bowers or a new tight end to replace him. I don't think Tyler Higbee's young enough to be a complete Kelce replacement because, like I said, Kelce still has quite a few years left. So we're not that urgent. But I think a 2 tight end weapon scheme would be really great, especially with this receiving core. We bring him in for a year or 2, draft a tight end, kind of raise him up, thank Higbee for his time, and let him go somewhere else. I think that'd be I would not mind that, honestly. I mean, I think it'd be a great weapon. We kind of saw a little bit with Jody Fortson when he was healthy last season. But that's been a struggle. So,
and that's another thing, we thought he was going to, and he's been injured a bunch. So I think, honestly, I feel like that experiment is fortunately over.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, I'm a really big fan of a 2 tight end set when they're both valuable weapons. And obviously Kelce is that. He's almost enough just for 2 tight end weapons already. But we had a guy like Higbee. I mean, that's a linebacker's nightmare. And I think that would open a lot of opportunities over the top. So he said it cost almost $7 million for the season. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, like, we have the cap space for that, I feel like.
I would be, if the Chiefs do that, I'd be in favor, but I feel like the only way that's going to happen is if they trade Chris Jones and they have all this cap space available. They could trade for Higbee. They could trade for Mike Evans. They could sign a Jarvis Landry. Yeah. So, again, this all boils back around to what's Chris Jones going to do. So, we got a lot to figure out.
Yep. A team I've also heard rumored a little bit is the Panthers for a Chris Jones trade. A little bit of talk about Brian Burns. I don't know how much validity is there, but what would you think about that? Bringing in like a Brian Burns type of defensive player.
I say why not? He's just going to only help the defense, and he's younger, I believe. Yeah. If they want to pay Chris Jones all that money, perfect. I mean, that's not me. Another team, I don't know if you heard about this, would be the Washington Commanders. I know they're loaded on the defensive line, but hey, if they're going to give us Chase Young, I would take that in a heartbeat because he's a great pass rusher. I think there's a chance if things don't work out for him, the Chiefs could pick him up. Yeah, I think I was advocating all off season that the Chiefs would just say CH and for Chase Young straight up and just do some pick swaps because they've both had some good moments, but they've also been injuries and struggles. So I think that's something else that could have happened as well.
Yep, that's something I want to hit on too. We talked about Clyde Edwards tonight. I think a lot of it's trying to potentially showcase him for a trade later this season. But this isn't a hate for, or I don't know that for sure, but that's kind of my thoughts. And this isn't a knock on Clyde, but I think if you over showcase him, and it's a kind of a high risk, high reward, because if he fails, I mean, it kind of backfires on you. It drops his trade value playing him more if you don't give him the right opportunity, and he just puts up bad numbers, So I think there's kind of it's a 2-sided affair. It's up to you. I mean, I don't know if they're trying to trade him and they're trying to showcase him. I would, and then activate Prince or something. I wouldn't mind that. We might have to dial it back a little bit, or at least give him better opportunities to get his name up in the headlines more.
Do you think, and this is, I know, again, overreaction, but do you think they make a trade by week 4 if they start the gate 0-2, 0-3, or 1-3?
A trade for trading
for anything. Like they trade a player out, they bring a player, and they sign someone. Do you think that could possibly happen if we get to a point where they start off 1-3, or so let's say 2-2 and they split?
Yeah, I think maybe not a trade, probably a trade, but also maybe a free agent signing. I think if it reaches that point, they're just looking for a spark. Like they're just looking to kind of get some more energy in the locker room, whether it's offense or defense. So whether that be a trade, whether that be a free agent signing, just bring in something new, a new face, whether it's like a Carlos Dunlap, somebody like that for the defense, or if it's a Jarvis Landry, or even trading for somebody that we've talked about. I wouldn't mind anything. Just kind of spice it up a little bit, bring some new talent, bring some energy, and almost some of those moves draw more attention from other teams with less of an outcome. And it's just like the mind game behind adding a new weapon that they have to think about, and you don't even have to use them. Just bringing them in for the mental aspect of things. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it's going to take a lot to see. I know one player Philip brings in the chat again is Cordero Patterson. You could put him in many different positions. I know Philip has, I think, wrote even an article on this guy. You can line up the running back and also the wide receiver position. You can put him in possibly a tight end. I mean, he's a guy you can use on many different areas. So if the Chiefs want him for something quick, I feel like there's a chance that the Falcons could maybe cut him if Bijan Robinson goes off this year. So, I mean, that's another move that could be made as well. Nice work, Philip.
Yep, good stuff, Philip. So, you do think might make a move, though, if they start off bad?
think
you kind of agree.
I think they're within the first 5 weeks, a move will be made.
Yeah. I don't think we'll reach a 1-3 or 0-4, because I think at that point, I think
we in some, like, what are we doing, like, the year after we lost Super Bowl, like, what's going on here? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
We're in that situation.
If they start off that bad, I think it'll come to the point where they're all in from the get-go. Because at some point, if you lose as many games like that starting off, you put your playoff spot in jeopardy.
Yeah.
So there's no point in saving these plays for the playoffs if you're going to have a crappy ranking. So at that point, you just got to go all in, get in your bag, run these plays, and just go to work early, which might put them in trouble in playoff time, but at least they make the playoffs, you know? So, but I don't think it'll come to that. I think they'll figure it out. They'll get some weapons back going, get some guys reactivated, and kind of make some moves and adjustments. I don't know. We've seen this coaching staff make adjustments before, and I expect them to do it again.
Exactly. You're not wrong there at all, man. You are not wrong.
Yep. So I think defensively, especially, I think offensively, there were some play calls that should be different, but I mean, we have to capitalize on those opportunities when they come. But defensively, I think a lot of it was just kind of the scheming. We got to play a little more aggressive. We played aggressive on the front nine, just bringing Bolton up the A gap a lot of pressure. Deion's played great. I liked the play up there, but I think the secondary's got to play a little bit more aggressive, go to make plays, get after the ball, hit some people, go for the interceptions type of thing. So kind of set them up more for that. I also thought special teams played great. We didn't talk about much about that.
Yeah, the special teams did really well. Really well. I mean, the punt fake. I mean, I wasn't expecting that.
No.
So, but besides that, which I'm going to throw that out, they played a flawless game.
Yeah. I honestly wouldn't even count that as a bad special teams play. Just a good one from the Lions. Really is how you look at that. So, that was relieving to see, even in a game like this, after the way last season ended with the special teams. Bucker did well. Richie James did good returning. He didn't have any drops. He didn't get much yardage, but just no fumbles. And at this point, that's what we're thankful for, I feel like, as all Chiefs fans. And then Tommy Townsend, he was booting. Yeah. So that was awesome to see. But I think they'll make some adjustments and be fine.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The adjustments will be made, and we'll see. Next week got 10 days, so we already know a lot of stuff's gonna be running out. A lot of people are gonna be frustrating, overreacting. I can't wait to see the different reactions. When we get off here, I'm gonna kind of, before I go to bed, I'm gonna look through Twitter and to kind of see what stuff for people are saying. So yeah.
Yep, I agree. So all right, well, anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything, man. Thanks again for hopping on. I enjoy working with you, so we got to keep doing this again or something. You got to come on our shows.
For sure, man. I'm starting to free up my schedules a little bit so I can start prioritizing this. So we definitely got to start running it back. It was great doing one, and I'm looking forward to the next one. And also, Also, no need to overreact, Chiefs Kingdom.
Mhm.
We'll be fine. All right.
We'll be
So
fine.
I got to end on that.
We'll be fine.
All right. Appreciate you, Caleb.
See you guys.